Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested here at Comic-Con 2018. Of course, with Stephen Lane of Prop Store. You guys have once again brought a selection of props from your upcoming live auction. Is it happening in September?
Absolutely. Here's the. This is the first tease for our preview for the live auction that takes place in London in September. Registration starts on August 31st, so get ready to sign. In fact, you can register right now. Sorry, the catalogue goes live on August the 31st. But this is the first look, the first up-close and personal look for everybody.
And of the things you've brought here, of course, you have some bigger pieces, some statues, some costumes. I like looking at the smaller pieces, the interesting hand props and miniatures, and you have a whole shelf here full of those things. Can you run me through some of these?
Yeah, we have some great stuff, actually, and we sort of try to bring some focus to some of the smaller pieces that we have here. You're absolutely right. We have some of the bigger display items as well, which dwarf a lot of these. But just taking you across the top here, I think a lot of people are going to recognize Johnny 5 there from Short Circuit 2. This is actually, rather than a model miniature, it's one of the sort of toy versions that they created.
Running through the mall.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. So they're running all over the place. As we come across here, we've got from The Nightmare Before Christmas, some of the stop motion animation. These guys are really fragile, quite delicate now. You know, we have to take great care of those when we transport them into the show. And we have a couple of examples of those guys. One of the zombie bass player that we have here, and another guy over here who's the saxophone player. Don't you just love the style and design of these things? They're just phenomenal.
It's really interesting because right behind Nightmare Before Christmas, you have something from the Box Trolls from Leica Studios, and two different stop motion companies made, over a decade apart. Almost 2 decades actually, and yet you see the detail that each company put into theirs, and also how puppetry changed.
Yeah, well, we're looking at two very different processes as well here, because some of the elements of this puppet here are actually 3D printed. So to speed up the process for stop motion animation, which we all know is hugely time consuming, they use 3D printed faces and appliances, which are attached by magnets, so they can just pop it off and change it. These guys were much, much more basic. It was literally just a very subtle movement at each time. But the beauty of these is actually, as they do move to the next stage in their life, if they do start to lose their skin, is the phenomenal armatures that are within them as well. And we do get to see those from time to time with some of the puppets that maybe have sort of died a little bit. And it's just the engineering that's gone into them is staggering. Absolutely incredible.
That's where the artistry is, hidden artistry in there. And so whoever ends up with this piece, they realize they don't just have the external cut and sew and mixed media. It is truly mixed media.
Yeah, it's like the King Kong. If you see the King Kong today with no hair and no fur, it's still a work of art.
Yeah. Now speaking of puppets, I see on the bottom row you have miniatures from Bond.
Yeah, isn't this guy great?
So
this is a miniature of Roger Moore in his diving outfit. I just love the detail. He's carrying the computer here, he's got a little flashlight, and this guy had a battery pack built into the back of this as well, so that it can be fully lit up on screen. And this was built by Derek Meddings and his team, who is just renowned for the work that he did, specifically on Bond, amongst other movies as well. But what a great, I mean, look at the detail on this thing, the webbing that you have down here and the strapping that's here. It's just superb.
The era of the Roger Moore Bonds, I think, was a high mark for miniatures and puppetry. From For Your Eyes Only to Moonraker, with the space station,
and the miniature the astronauts that they had, and
it's all practical in those sets and
again made by Derek Meddings. He was just an absolute genius of that era. There's no doubt about it at all.
Absolutely. Now, hand props. I know Star Wars is kind of your thing. What do you have here from
we're
Star
all
Wars?
into Star Wars,
Yeah, we absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we have a shelf of glorious Star Wars artifacts here, actually. So if we're starting on the left-hand side here, this is a Stormtrooper helmet from A New Hope. So you can see that it's a little bit battle damaged, a little bit worn here. And that's because somebody at some point in his life, a number of years ago, 15, 20 years ago, decided they were going to restore it. So that's why we don't see the decals on there and some of the detail that you'd be expecting to see. But what is evident from this is actually the material that the helmet is made from. And that's this sort of pond liner that they used during that era, because they were having problems with the vac forming to get the curves and the undercuts with it. So even though you've sort of got this sort of distressed look to it, it actually sort of shouting out, this is A New Hope. This is constructed specifically and used in the first Star Wars film. Next to this, lightsabers. You've got to love the lightsabers. Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber from Revenge of the Sith. This is the hero version.
Wow.
And so this has actually come to us, these two items here have come to us from Nick Gillard, who was the stunt coordinator on the film, and he was also the fight coordinator as well. He was gifted these at the end of production, and these are what they call the sort of the close-up beauty sabers or belt sabers. So it has the little clip on the side here where they would hang them onto their belts. But you have Anakin's saber, which everybody recognizes. I mean, that's the saber that follows through virtually all of the films that we've seen, and then Palpatine's saber as well. Interesting fact about the Palpatine saber was this was actually, they had an internal competition within the props department to design this particular saber. So everybody went away and did a design, and then one guy who designed it, they picked it, and he was the winner, and this was his.
And they machined it, and it has that real shiny chrome look.
Yeah. This is. Let me just see if I can just pop this off here, but. Yeah, I mean, this is, got a really lovely weight to it, really lovely finish to it as well. And just, it's so ergonomic as well. And it's quite different to a lot of the other lightsabers that you see.
Mm-hmm. And as hero ones, they never attach the stunt rods to these.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. So you would have the stunt version. So this is what you'd probably deem a stunt version. This is Qui-Gon's from the Phantom Menace, and this is made of resin, and it's sort of, as you can see, doesn't have the same paintwork and finish. And in fact, it was quite a process. Over the years of making lightsabers, it really developed and changed as well. But this is sort of the stunt version. Then you have a stunt version which has the fighting blade.
Yes.
And then you'd have the hero version for close-up shots as well.
It's such an interesting set here because all the way to the end, like you're right, this is Anakin's lightsaber, which is the hand prop that permeates the entire series. But for New Hope, cobbled together, kit bashed together from the Graflex. And this is not that because this is machined for the film.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
It comes full circle.
It comes full circle.
Oh,
yeah.
Wonderful.
These I actually love as well. Not much to say about them other than they are a special set that were made for the heads of department on Rogue One. And so at the end of production, they just made about a dozen or so of these miniature representations of the helmets that they used in the film. And I love it. I think it just sits perfectly together in the case here.
And that's really interesting because as you mentioned, these come from the crew sometimes, and it is their crew gift. And that's how these are sourced. Many people probably ask you where these collectibles come from.
Yeah,
and they're from the people who work on the film.
They do. This one actually has been gifted directly by Lucasfilm through the costume designer Michael Kaplan for a charity sale. So we're selling it on behalf of the NSPCC, the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. So all of the funds from the sale of this will go directly to the charity, which is really, really exciting for them. It's been signed on the inside by Michael Kaplan. Actually, you know what? I think we should take this off as well and have a look at this. Just see if we can do this here. What I might do is just very carefully take this out of the case for you, and then I'm just going to, if you wouldn't mind just holding on to that for me, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, so, I mean, if you compare the construction of these two helmets here together, I mean, it's chalk and cheese. You know, it's just the way, again, that the film props and costumes today are being engineered by comparison to how they were so many years ago. And as we turn it over and look on the inside, we can see here that it's been signed. Let me just turn it around for the camera there. You can probably have a look at that.
Yeah,
signed there by Michael Kaplan, costume designer for the film.
And it gives a great sense of the comfort of these on set as they made these for background trooper extras.
Yeah, you know what? I know a few people have worn these. They're not that comfortable.
Not that comfortable. They had to make a lot of them.
Yeah, and especially the suits. I think, you know, there's a lot of weight there, even with the way that they've been designed. But it's like the iPhone version of the Stormtrooper, isn't it? I mean, it's just a stunning piece of design.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stephen. I know we're going to chat with Brandon in a bit about the other shelves, but the auction is this September.
Yeah, September. You can register now, as I say, at propstore.com/live auction.
Great. So now we're with Brandon Allinger of Prop Store, of course. And Brandon, on this shelf, you guys have, well, in this whole auction, you guys have some Harrison Ford memorabilia.
Yeah, Harrison Ford, a bit of a theme. We have the Empire Strikes Back jacket, and in addition to that, we have some great pieces from the Indiana Jones film. So this is an original bullwhip from Temple of Doom, made by David Morgan, the whip maker, famous whip maker who did all those for the Indiana Jones trilogy. We also have a clapperboard from Indy 2, second unit clapper from Temple of Doom, and then this is the real prize, the star of the show in my opinion. Let me just take this out and show it to you because it's a very special thing.
Oh my god.
This is Harrison Ford's fedora from Raiders.
From
the one that
Raiders,
started it all.
Raiders.
Yes, yeah. So one of them, as always, they would have had a couple. There were definitely a few. But when you watch Raiders, if you look very distinctly, you can see the way the ribbon folds is distinct on each hat. So this specific hat you can place exactly in most of the scene shot in Tunisia. So everything in the truck chase, when they're out there in Cairo and they're running through the streets of Cairo, that is all this exact hat. And there are different markings, things like the way the dirt creeps up over the band here. At one point when Indy is fighting the German mechanic, you can see this dot on the back here very, very clearly. This thing, it's been cleaned since. It had blood all over it when he's fighting the mechanic. But it is, when you look very closely, it is this exact hat.
And that's not cleaning you do, because if you had it that dirty, you'd keep it that dirty.
No, that's right. Hey, I'm wearing the gloves. We keep it exactly as is. But, you know, at some point, probably during production, it would have been cleaned. And you can see here, this hat was made by Herbert Johnson. Well known that Herbert Johnson did the hats for the film, but this one is stamped in the brim IJ in gold, and that is what they did on the official hats. Also, a prior collector had it signed by Harrison Ford at some point. So that's what you're seeing there. But this is the hat, one of the hats that he wore in Raiders.
That is one of the most iconic pieces of costuming in movie history, of course, from Deborah Newman-Lenz's costume design.
Yep.
Now, speaking of other iconic props, something of my childhood, Men in Black. Now, Men in Black had some great hand props that were beloved by the prop making community. You have two of them here. Let's take a look.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I also love that first Men in Black film and the whole trilogy. 97, Will Smith was the man, right? He had just done Independence Day the year before. And then this came out, and great movie, great props. The noisy cricket, right? Super memorable, classic design. I think this one is actually cast metal, and it does have functional lights in there. So that's a beautiful piece. But in my opinion, even cooler than the noisy cricket is the neuralizer. Let me just pull this out so we can take a look at it. This one is from Men in Black 2, but this is a hero version. So all the dials work, everything spins. So you can set the year, day, and time that you're sending the person back to, right? And you can see the light on the front there, and it does actually, there's a flash. The batteries are very dim now, but there's a flash on it. These also light up, and then the whole unit collapses, and when you pull the little...
Wow, actuating.
How good is that, huh?
That is super cool. Completely unnecessary. They could have had some other mechanism, but it's all self-contained, which is one of the great things about this.
I mean, practical props, look, we've had this conversation before, but practical props are just so great for so many reasons, and I think, you know, it enables the actor to do their job with that much more sincerity, you know, when they have a device that they believe could actually be wiping someone's memory.
And something that they use on set and use multiple times for those shots.
Yes, yeah. This is actually the only one we've ever sold, only original neuralizer, so we're super excited to have this one for the September auction.
Awesome. Now, the other things you have here on display, you have some costumes. Can you run through some of the highlights, some of your favorite items?
Sure, yeah, my favorite, I mean, to be honest, the Raiders hat that we just looked at, definitely a favorite, but the Han Solo jacket from The Empire Strikes Back, I mean, that is it. That screen matches the scenes on Cloud City. You can match every little detail of the stitch lines. It's like, that is Harrison Ford's jacket. That's a great one. I love the endoskeleton from Terminator 2. We've had a lot of people looking at that today. It's out of the front of the booth. It's very bright. Terminator 2, I think, just another classic from my childhood, a lot of people's childhood, so that's been very popular. And Superman has drawn a lot of attention. The back of the stage here, we have some costumes, and right in the center, Superman with that bright, classic, you know, primary color scheme, blue, yellow, and red, has drawn a lot of people in, and that's from the first Superman movie, which is really special.
So a lot of the work you do is with verifying authenticity, with that screen matching. Is there like a moment in the studio where when someone identifies that mark on a screenshot that everyone's like, yes, we got it?
Yeah, a lot of times it's during the research process when we're considering whether to take something in for auction. So if we get offered a piece, and sometimes things have slightly unusual stories because these things tend to bounce around, and you know, it may have come from a family of a crew member. I mean, there's all kinds of different journeys that these items could have taken before they reach us. So sometimes you aren't fully sure based on the story alone, but when you look at the film, you pull up the Blu-ray or the press photos or whatever, and you see that exact screen match, then you sort of have this wow moment. That actually happened with the Han Solo jacket. When we first pulled it out, we thought it was a prototype because there were certain photos that we were looking at that it did not match to. The pocket configuration was different, but what we were looking at was one of the other jackets in the film. And then as we got deeper into the research and we realized, wait a minute, in this scene, the pockets are in different places, and then we said, that looks a lot like this one, and actually some of these fold marks are in exactly the same place. And then we found that stitch line, and it was like, no, this is not a prototype. This is Harrison Ford's jacket from Empire. Those
Especially when
moments.
you're talking about older films where there is no 4K version that's available.
That's right.
You're using publicity stills, kind of tracking along, following along the production.
Yeah, the research is fun.
Awesome. Now, what you have here, how representative is this of the whole subset of what you're auctioning off in September?
I think we only have 50 or 60 pieces here, and in September there's 600 items in the auction, so this is only about 10%. We try to bring highlights, we try to bring a range of items, so there's something for everyone to catch their eye, but the catalog goes out August 31st. Please take a look at it when it comes out, because there is loads of different things in there.
Awesome. We'll look forward to that catalog and share some with you as well. Thank you so much, Brandon.
Yeah, good to see you as always. Comic-Con 2018, enjoy it.
Thanks for watching this video. If you were watching it and thinking, boy, I wish Tested sold a t-shirt, your prayers are answered. I am wearing the first Tested t-shirt that proudly proclaims that one-day builds always take longer than a day. Buy yours right now in the link below.